Alright. Well, we already know it's here. Still don't really feel like doing these yet. But we will. I know we will. So we'll just end as we do. Check out other stuff first. Maybe I'll push it when we reach the end of the other new stuff. Or I don't know. We might just be in a whole new phase of new stuff to check out. Then again, looks like we are story boys right now, which I am fine with. Story boys. I see Castor. Come to think of it, it's not unusual to find her meditating here. I wonder if there's something she's thinking about. Okay, I'm back. Sorry, I got a crash here. Wait for it. Love this song. I got a crash here. It crashed exactly here on this voice line, so I saw it, so it was a problem online, so I skipped a little bit past it to see if, because apparently that's what fixed it for someone, or rather, let them get past this point, so hopefully this doesn't crash anymore. Maybe now's not the right time. Perhaps I would be able to hear the real story from her. Bah, asking for the real story? What am I saying? I've already asked Castor everything I needed to ask. If I question her any further, I might end up touching upon the truth. That's too reckless. No matter how much she prefers living a peaceful life, she's still a natural-born witch. She will eliminate mercilessly anything that does not serve her interests, as if sweeping away the dust before her without hesitation. I can't let my guard down. Whilst living amongst someone whose very existence is something that hurts others, showing any weakness at all is fatal. I recall the myth, the princess of sorcery who received the teachings of the great witch. The cunning witch behind the demise of many countries in the Age of Gods. Wow. Is that Lily? Castor Lily? Princess Medea, the daughter of Aetes, the king of Colchis, the edge of the east, or Colchis, the edge of the east of the Greek world on the eastern coast of the Black Sea. A sorceress who received the teachings of Hecate, goddess of magic, a princess who led a sheltered life as a king's daughter. Reading stuff is a lot different. Reading in my mind is a lot different than reading out loud, in which case my ignorance shows. The innocent princess, who was raised unbeknownst of the outside world, was plenty content with just that. She neither wanted wings to set herself free, nor did she long for the vast outside world. She loved the country she was raised in, and was satisfied with living her whole life in the mountains. I'm so glad we're getting another one of these. I loved it with Ku, I loved it with Ryder. This is awesome. However, with the arrival of heroes seeking glory, the girl's hopes were shattered. The captain of the Argo appeared from the outside world. Jason, the hero who arrived seeking the treasure of Colchis, the Golden Fleece, would cause Medea to betray her country. It was because the goddess aiding Jason, Aphrodite, put a curse on Medea, which caused her to fall blindly in love with him. Medea betrayed her father, gave the Golden Fleece to Jason, and escaped Colchis with Jason, now her husband. Even as the king of Colchis pursued the Argo to reclaim his daughter, the cursed Medea used magic to tear apart her brother, who accompanied them into pieces and scattered them across the sea. Grieving, the king collected his dead son's remains, and Jason and company used the opportunity to put Colchis behind them. Like this, the foreign invaders shook off their pursuers. However, it is said the disquieting atmosphere on the Argo did not fade. The princess who presented her homeland's treasure to the man. The woman who went as far as to kill her own brother for the man she loved. The heroes on the boat unanimously castigated the girl who was the princess of Colchis. As if regarding something disgusting and filthy, the heroes avoided the girl. Fortunately for Medea, whose heart was bound by the goddess's curse, she saw their condemning gaze as no different than a mere sea breeze. She was content with hearing only Jason's words. I'm sorry, but you've done well, Medea. That's right. So long as she could hear such words from the man she loved, she could endure the hero's disdain. The regret of abandoning her country, the sinful betrayal towards her father, the punishment of murdering her own brother were all things she could withstand. And yet, not once did she hear such warm words from her husband. The return voyage ended without the slightest problem. Jason made the foreign princess his wife and returned triumphantly to his own country of Iolcos with the promised golden fleece in hand. But what awaited there was the death of his parents and the annulment of the promise. Once the golden fleece is returned, thy throne shall be recognized. Pelias, the king of Iolcos, who promises to Jason, cowardly laughed it off as a simple play of words. Just wordplay, bro. Just a prank. Fueled by rage, Jason commanded his betrothed. He's a cowardly usurper. Kill King Pelias. Though seized by her love toward Jason, Medea was still but a young girl. To the girl who had been shattered by her deed against her brother, Jason repeated insistently, Kill, kill, kill King Pelias who broke his vow. Kill the king's relatives. Wow, that's right, the king alone will not suffice. Kill that unsightly successor and the 3 princesses too. Jesus. It did not take long for Jason to prepare the assassination. The king and his daughters were invited to Jason's house. In the center was the witch's cauldron. The girl had been bestowed it by the great witch Hecate. These names are killing me. A crystallization of secrets and a foundation of mysteries. My good king, we welcome you to our humble abode. Before anyone realized, the end had already begun to draw near. Unable to resist the man she loved and the curse of the goddess, Medea would use her own magic for the murder of the king. Yeesh, well that is thick. That's that Ivan ooze right there. King Pelias, let us feast our eyes on my wife's secret arts. The man she loved said proudly. The girl stirred the cauldron with eyes weary from crying. This would be the secret art of rejuvenation, the magic in which my wife is particularly skilled. Thus spoke the man whom she unknowingly came to love. Unable to oppose, the girl continued the ritual. Let me go back. The hand stirring the cauldron grew ever so tired, feeling like lead. Come to think of it, from the moment she put her country behind her, had she ever been able to sleep peacefully? Her mind and body exhausted, she continued on as if surrounded by thick fog. Being this tired made her forget. Being this sad made her dull. Oh, had she learned magic to do such things? She cut up an aged sheep and placed it into the cauldron, just live in front of everyone. Jesus. Stir, stir, splash, splash, it melted and disappeared. And then the aged sheep that had lost all shape and figure revived at the hands of Medea. Its skin brilliant and its eyes full of life. The aged sheep was reborn a lamb. Okay, that's pretty fucking amazing. The king, impressed, requested that he be rejuvenated as well, of course. Took the bait. Then the girl spoke, just as instructed by the man she loved. For that purpose, the body must first be cut apart. This art requires that you die once. Yikes. The king, fearless, ordered the 3 daughters he loved so to perform the dire deed. Yikes. Yo, Greek stories are so awful, dude. The 3 princesses cut their father to pieces. The king was thrown into the cauldron, and then... I saw it, those fiendish daughters carving up their own father. Their father did not revive. The 3 princesses cried and screamed. The man she loved then bound the women. The gods will never forgive the sin of patricide. Daughters of King Pelias, take up your own lives. The 3 daughters cried and shouted. Why has this happened? They cried out. They pleaded for forgiveness, not from the gods, but from their father, the king who they had killed. The unfamiliar man called Jason did not forgive even one of them. The goddess's curse vanished at that moment. Her clouded heart finally cleared up. Uh-oh. But it was too late. Betraying her country, killing her brother, killing the king through trickery, going as far as to let the 3 innocent princesses die. That day, The girl had undoubtedly transformed into a witch. That was just what I was thinking. Oh my god. Let me go back. The splendor of Jason's ascent to the throne lasted but an instant. The people learned of the king's murder and they drove Jason and the foreign witch out of Iolcos. You fuckers. I mean fucker. I'm speaking about Jason, basically. I don't know why I pluralized that. Actually, Jason and Aphrodite. You fuckers. Jason, who had no place to return to, took the witch and roamed Greece, wandering at last to Corinth. The king of Corinth welcomed Jason, and before long proposed matrimony with his daughter Glauce. Marry Glauce and obtain the kingship of Corinth, or keep the witch as wife and continue to receive the king's protection. Jason did not hesitate. Even though he had begotten 2 children from the witch, their bond was not enough to keep him near. Jesus. Yo, he is worse. Like, I know a couple things about Jason, but holy shit, I did not know the whole story. This is fucking awful. Jason abandoned the witch and ran to Glauce's side. Well, I didn't know the circumstances behind it. I knew that he essentially abandoned her, but yeah. Please don't go. Please don't go. I threw aside my home and country for you. I gave up everything for you. Have pity, if not for me, then for the children. I beg of you, dude. 2 kids as well? What a piece of fucking garbage. To the witch who clung tearfully, the man said, "What are you trying to say? Was it not your fault that I lost my country? You terrible foreign witch. I never loved you even once." Before she knew it, home was too far. All hopes lost, she stepped onto foreign soil. Let me go back. And so, at the end of a long journey, her only desire was born. But how could it be granted? Everything was but a dream of paradise. The girl became a hideous witch, and even upon returning home, not a single soul would believe her to be the young princess. She had changed too much. Even as the castle she lived out her childhood in remained unchanged, surrounded by the same greenery. And then, on the day of the marriage of the man named Jason, in the midst of countrywide celebration, Corinth fell. Glauce, the bride, was engulfed in flames, and the hero who was to become the new king was forced again to a life of wandering. The tale that follows is no longer a part of the legend. It is said the young man who led the heroes as the captain of the Argo, while pondering the wreckage of the ship, was crushed to death by its fallen stem post. And that the girl he brought home with him became a witch and continued to wander the lands of Greece. Fucker. Even now she gazes over yonder from the ashen shore. The many sins she had accumulated. Let me go back. Dude, and the many dreams she had left behind. And this makes me like, oh my god. Because I remember that wish in the Unlimited Blade Works, her just wanting to go home, right? That wish she had. But then finding that in Kuzuki. Like, I remember as she died in Unlimited Blade Works, that moment, right? That, like, her saying that her wish had been granted with him now in Fuyuki. And the fact that they could just be a fucking happy couple now, and just seeing how joyous she constantly is, how, like, it's almost a joke how just instantaneous, like, her mood will shift once Kuzuki comes around and she just elates, like, knowing just the weight of what this love means to her in the face of all the shit she gone through before, to, like, find the actual love, like a real love, right? Goddamn. Let me go back. Though she knew those wishes would never be granted, I want to return to my country before I die. As though in atonement, the woman continued to hope. Dizziness overcame me, as if having seen a fragmented dream. And the fact that Shiro just saw all that right now. Wasn't I going to ask something? Apparently. I'll be alright, so long as I'm careful, a conversation should be fine. It's akin to jumping into a lion's den out of curiosity, but this time the witch seems sated. Surely she'd overlook an unpleasant question or two to kill some time.
また来たの？何のつもりか知らないけど勇敢ね。私が一人でいる時がどんなに危険か分かっているでしょう。
And we also see why she's so defensive of the home she now has at the temple. Just as she says herself, being near Castor when there is no one else around is unquestionably dangerous. The real hazard is not the fact that she can use magic without the concern of prying eyes, but the fact that she cannot control her emotions while not under the scrutiny of others. Once Castor snaps, there's no way to stop her. She may act like a calm witch if an outsider were present, but when left alone, her feelings run wild. Well, people do call that being emotionally unstable or delusional.
いや、ちょっと気になることがあって。
It's a miracle she's emotionally functional at all, you know?
今は機嫌が良さそうだから、今のうちに聞いておこうと思ったんだよ。
The atmosphere grows ever so slightly heavier. I guess she's already figured out what it might be about.
何かしら。あまりいい話ではなさそうだけど。
Yeah, because I guess this is what Shiro meant when, after the conversation with Kaden about knowing what he wants to do now, I guess is to ask Castor about what they talked about.
ただの質問。長居するのも恐ろしいし、サクッと聞くけどさ。あんたがこの状況を解決する気がないのは分かってる。それに関してはどうこう言う気はない。ただ、一つだけ知りたくなったんだ。あんたほどの魔術師なら、この4日間のことなんて簡単に調べがつく。なら本当の話、あんたは本当のことを知ってるんじゃないのかって。
Maybe she wants to preserve this, right?
面白いことを言うのね。
It wouldn't be that surprising if she figured it out, but is okay with it given her circumstances, right?
私が全てのからくりを知っていると？
A broad grin spreads across her face. It's the polar opposite of her smile from before, a smile that carries an unmistakable omen of death.
残念ながら外れよ、坊や。
Oh?
確かに初めは手を尽くして危うく天をつかみそうになったわ。けど今の私はその一歩手前。
One step away.
ほら、お遊戯は全てを知れば終わってしまうでしょ。だから解明するのはやめて、その前に手を離したのよ。
Because the play ends when all is known. Right.
やめておいた。
So she purposely stopped.
そりゃ同じことだろ。結局知ってるようなもんじゃないか。
でもまだ誰にも教えてはいないわ。犯人を当ててしまったら事件はおしまいですもの。この犯人は何もできないし、
Can't do anything.
無理に捕まえる義理もないですからね。
なるほど。犠牲者は出ないから感染してるってわけか。そういえば割と受け身だよな、あんたって。じゃあ今回もずっと傍観してくれるのか？
私から手を出す気はないと言ったでしょ。でも最後の時になったらそう言ってはいられないでしょうね。
When the end comes.
終わるというのなら私も黙ってはいない。いえ、私じゃなくて私のマスターが、だけど。
Well, it's the same thing in the end, sighs Castor. She may be known as a treacherous witch, but her obedience to her master, Kuzuki Soichiro, is absolute and unwavering. Well, you could also say she's head over heels for him, exactly. She seems to think she's not been found out yet, but it's a well-known fact to everyone aside from Kuzuki and Castor. The moment Kuzuki Soichiro says, "Assist me" to Castor, she would obey regardless of what it was.
あんたとしては続けたいけど、久月先生が解決すると言ったら手伝うってこと？
そうよ。犯人の邪魔はしないけど協力もしない。いえ、できないのよ。 終わる終わらないは私ではどうにもならないことですからね。わかる？だからあなたは目障りなの。続けたいって言うなら飽きるまで続けさせればいいのに、自分から邪魔しようとしているんだもの。ほんと、何度あなたを殺してやろうと思ったか。
一応聞いておくけど、今の冗談？
あら、私が冗談を口にできる女かどうか、あなたは知ってるんじゃなくて？
My back freezes twice over. I knew it wasn't a good idea to stay here for long.
あんたはとことん傍観者だってことは分かったよ。この話はこれっきりにしたいところだけど。
Just once.
なあ、どうして殺さなかったんだ？一度ぐらいはいいだろう。
Well, no, not really. Since it's Castor we're talking about, you'd think she'd lose it and skewer me at least once already.
どうしても何も。マスターが一度もそれを望まなかったからに決まっているでしょ。
Okay. She declares flatly. I smile at her graciousness.
そうか。そうだったな。最後にもう一つ聞いとくわ。仮に久月総一郎がこの異常に気づいたらどうすると思う？解決しようとするかな？それともこのまま放っておこうとするかな？なあ、本当の話、あんたらはどうなんだろう？
Interesting question. For an instant, the air is completely frozen. I could have died 4 times within 3 seconds. Castor restraining the magical energy that could kill me with just a glance.
解決するわ。総一郎の善悪は坊やとは違うけど、あの人は自分が間違っていると感じたことは正す人だから。
Her answer has a shadow of sadness in it.
そっか。あんたのマスターは俺に似てるんだな。
I say that to myself in reverence as I let out the melancholy that had built up in my chest.
違うわね。あなたが総一郎に似ているのよ。
Ooh. Her reply echoes with pride.
ああ、じゃあこの辺で。つまんない話をして悪かった。あんたは思う存分ここで我関せずを貫いてくれ。
It reminds me of in the Blu-ray of Unlimited Blade Works, which is the version I did the reactions to back in the day. There was an added scene after Archer, quote unquote, betrays Rin and, you know, goes to Castor's side. There's a conversation he has with Kuzuki in the back room, and them talking about having kind of an ideological like talk. And it was interesting. So like to compare Shiro and Kuzuki is reminded me of
言
that.
われなくてもそのつもりよ。けど、そうね。一人で頑張っているあなたに敬意を表して、すべてが終わる時が来たら見送りぐらいはしてあげるわ。
I'll see you off. All right, I'll hold you to it. I'm dumbfounded. Her words leave me speechless.
何ですかその顔は。私の言っていることがわからない？私は最後の時になったら。
Kill you, what?
分かってる。手伝ってやるって言ったんだよな。お世辞抜きで頼りにするよ。
We're holding you to that.
あんたたちに手伝ってもらえるのはもしかしたら一番の励みになるかもしれない。
Dude, that'd be awesome. I leave Castor's garden. She fixes her robe and sees me off. What an unpleasant subject. Even though she was in such a good mood. Oh. There was just one moment where she looked like her past ominous self. Yeah, especially with her hood up. Very Stay Night vibes right now.
本当の話、あんたらはどうなんだろう。
The boy who said that is already leaving. The witch conceals her body with a black robe and rather than disappearing, stands completely still. Someone who is like someone. Someone who is alike to someone. I see, your master is like me. The present that is like reality. The illusion that resembles reality. That is wrong. It is you who are like my master. The disjointed thoughts swirl together and dissolve. A muddy mess. Scenes of the present world that have already become the memory of another. Memories from when she still lived as a human and a bad dream she had just seen a little earlier. Like the cauldron where the old sheep was boiled, the dead and living are mingled together.
本当の話ですって。
The witch bites her lip ominously. Perhaps an evening shower. Thunder can be heard in the distance. The sound of rain hitting the trees evokes a vision of the scene where they first met. Even if she gives into frustration, only one thing comes to her mind. That day. The dried out palms of the man that grasped the hand of the foolish woman who had never been chosen by anyone. Yeesh. Damn. Rain. Rain is falling. She looks down briefly only to see that the hand is covered in blood. I remember this, of course. Straining her ears, she could hear ragged breathing. A body frozen like ice and her head frighteningly blank. Rain? Rain. It's rain. A body threatening to vanish, her reason threatening to collapse. The sky she looks up at is high. She calls for help and receives none, and the fading body grows ever colder. Oh, but tonight is different. Her magical energy is running out. There are few spells at her disposal and none to secure a vanishing life with. No, to begin with. Because the night when the cold rain fell was warmer and filled with light. His death was nearly instant. This is the story of one man. It begins about 25 years back. His death was nearly instant. In my mind I was like, Atrum? But I don't know, we'll see. The story of a lethal weapon that was tempered for nearly as long as he lived. Kuzuki? He did not know what that group was right until the very end. In the middle of secluded mountains, amidst the community that gathered and lived together like mountain ascetics, he came into existence. Without parents or siblings, he was born as a child with no connections whatsoever. It might be more accurate to call it an emergence rather than a birth. The baby grew up in the midst of that gathering. Fortunately, he was pure. Even though that wasn't much of a place for living, even though that probably wasn't how people lived, he who knew not of the outside world accepted that gathering. 20 years since then, he did not leave his allotted 10 square meters of forest and continued to temper the one technique he was bestowed with. Around the age of 10, he was told that the community was a factory, a place where the necessities of daily life are mass-produced through the work of many. Since he had no experience in creating things, he didn't have to wonder which side he was on. He had no objection to the fact that he was a daily necessity. Instead, you could probably say he was relieved. It would have been strange otherwise. All day long, he single-mindedly repeated the same steps. No need for variety. Just perfect this one action, said the beep. That's the same as being a tool. They consented to the fact that they were tools being used by total strangers and further polished their function. To put it another way, those unable to come to terms were grief-stricken, became unable to keep up with their daily work, and disappeared even from the memories of the tools. It was shortly after that when he guessed his own function. Extra knowledge was driven into them for when the time came. Daily necessities though they may be, they had to become pseudo-humans to manifest their function. The knowledge necessary to function as a human. While considered an excess, it was rare for them to be used without that knowledge. Although it would seem the beep were against including extra functions, it was something unavoidable. To him and to the beep, it was no doubt an agonizing decision. Knowledge that he hadn't been taught until then. Things that are common knowledge for a human, things that would make him inconsistent if learned. It was only dead weight to slow him down. However, thanks to that knowledge, he learned the name of his function. Murderer. I was wondering, the build-up to this was crazy, but yes, there you go. Wow. To be detected by no one, to kill the victim before they are even aware of it, that was the function expected of him. What a brutal upbringing, man. God damn, I mean, seeing how he is and what we knew about him, not too surprising, but still, gosh. Being a fast learner, he left his 10 square meters of forest and came to serve more frequently at the Beep's court. But even that happened only once a month or so. There he learned of the cost of perfection and the appearance of the Beep who were using him. The court was an immaculately clean place. The building where demons were said to live, the place rumored to be a hellish pandemonium, was in fact a spotless white world. The scraps of tools that didn't listen to the Beep and were disassembled while alive, Jesus! And the remnants of those who brought shame to Beep and had their brains transplanted into animals as punishment. Dude, what the fuck is this community? And the fish tanks packed with flesh of the children who were gathered for the comfort of Beep. What the fuck? What the fuck? Nothing. None of it was there. Oh. Those were all things that certainly happened. Oh, okay. But they had nothing to do with this place. In this pure space, Beep, having known not one speck of guilt, as an ineffective form of staving off boredom, aiming for nothing but the expansion of tonight's menu by a mouthful, exchanged completely unrelated human lives for money. Ashashin. Please save me. I don't want to die. Please let me go. Those pleas were to be all laughed off as filthy and silenced. And so without the Beep even noticing, the ones exploited realized something in their final moments. These humans were speaking a different language all along. They were both living beings, yet their hearts were created differently. Things like the voice of the dishes lined up along the dinner table did not exist to them. Wow. Vivid. To the Beep, the voice of other humans would never in a lifetime reach them. This is not a matter limited to just their court. Thus said the ones who oversaw him. Those are the privileged few who use us tools. This world is governed by humans who are not humans. True. He was told his function was to kill just one person for them. He didn't think that was evil. Mentally, he was already perfect. His morality was bred for the convenience of the Beep. To him, murder was not evil. If anything was evil, then it was actions that were not logical. The logic of a tool. The logic of existence. Simply put, if an ink brush loses its use, then that is evil. If something made for killing people overlooks its target, that is injustice. And if hollow paradise is not supposed to be occurring, and something is wrong, then logic. If you put it this way, Beep were not doing anything wrong. They were creatures that had been given such preferences and privileges to begin with. If they cared about their slaves, then the reasoning by which the world was managed would not stand. And that is how he was taught. While he witnessed the Beep's cruelty, he did not detest them. If there was something evil, it was just one thing. Do not doubt one's own function. That should have been what was correct for him, yet for some reason he still thought about it. What if he were to be given a function altogether different from this one? He thought of things that could be nothing but evil, like what kind of tool he would then have become. Towards this function, his daily routine continued. The art bestowed upon him was a fighting style called Snake, hell yeah, but he perfected it many years ago. Nevertheless, his daily routine did not change. No new techniques would be given to him. He was simply created as a snake tool. However much capacity he had, there would be no meaning in adding other functions. And like that, another 10 years passed, and he reached the 20th. Finally, nearing his expiration date as a tool, he was given a chance to exert his potential.
お前の完成には2000万の金と時間がかかっている。
Jesus. If there was anything different from from other organizations, that would be it. No matter what type of tool they were, no matter what kind of function they had, a one-man, one-kill rule was strictly observed. The exact same end awaited both outstanding talent and average junk.
2000万かけて育てた道具は2000万の仕事をすればよい。
Jesus. Profits will be taken. You will not be used twice. Kill yourself after fulfilling your duty. Jeez, dude. Those were their absolute rules. So it's so like fucking interesting that you only use you once. They train you so brutally, and the community is so brutal. Like if you can't keep up, you're fucking done. In a way, that's pretty smart, right? It's like safe because they're not doing multiple jobs. It's like you can't really trace people like that are built the way they are. But then, like, to cover the loose end, kill yourself after that. Yikes. In order to kill this person, he underwent training beyond human comprehension, and then, having finally perfected the technique after tens of years of practice, he will display it only once before putting an end to everything. God damn. He obeyed in silence. It was said the target laid out layer upon layer of defenses. But you can imagine, like, how are they obtaining so many people, which in itself is obviously super fucked up. Like, obviously they're like trafficking people for this purpose, like kids, and raising them this way. But like, do they really have that many people that they can dispose of, like, decades of training for one job? Like, the turnover is that good for them? If so, that is fucking terrifying. Even more so, I should say. It was said the target laid out layer upon layer of defenses. The social position necessary for smoothly making contact would be provided by the beep. After that, he just had to proceed with his body alone. Proceeding empty-handed was done solely to make it easier to make contact with the key individual. When they leave the forest, they are promised death, a journey to die regardless of their success or failure. Feelings of happiness, frankly, they were likely there, however faint. Settling a balance of 20 years, finding out the extent of his function. Even if the outcome was death, that was still plenty to look forward to. The work ended all too quickly. Gosh. Man. Now with me finally seeing the full story of Medea, I should have obviously read it by now, but also with Kuzuki. God damn, you know, the society he grew up in and his whole function and what it all led to. I gotta keep going. God. The work ended all too quickly. There were none of the expected guards or barriers. When he visited the building to do preliminary inspections for the real thing, he ended up finishing his job. The emotions of that moment were not easy to put into words. What came flying into his chest was nothing. Neither joy nor sadness. Neither disgust nor happiness. Shouldn't there be something? He thought his function would be accompanied by some emotion, but not a single ripple disturbed his mind. If only. Suppose something did move within him at that moment. Wouldn't that make him a different being altogether? If there was happiness, then on to the suicide. If there was sadness, then on to being a natural-born killer. But there had been nothing. Feelings and so forth, there were none whatsoever in the fruits of the technique he spent 20 years tempering. There was neither pleasure nor discomfort when he killed. Only the feeling of the puppet-like target's neck breaking was left in the palm of his hand. There was no reward, nor was there compensation. The shock of taking a person's life was nowhere to be found. Even his function itself seemed strange. Didn't need it. It was completely unnecessary. The murder of this target required no technique whatsoever. It was more like an accident. A level of difficulty that needed no training, an assassination that kids in the neighborhood could have performed. It was all excessive. That easy, huh? How on earth could something like 20 years of training have been needed? His function that was left was with nothing. A pilgrimage that was of no meaning to begin with. It's not that doubts had surfaced. There was probably no reason. There was no reason in anything. Before the corpse that he only knew the name of, he became aware of his usual apathetic self. Wow. Look at young Kuzuki. So what he attained was awareness. He felt nothing. You know, and he thought like was 20 years of this training necessary for this, that it felt so easy. I guess that's the point of that much training. But he even said the expected security measures weren't even in place. So I guess that really accentuated this awareness, I guess, of which he's saying, I'm dull. Drawing that conclusion himself, he then decided to liquidate the person he was up until then. Huh. Liquidated. And I guess that's how he left. Huh. Damn. He did not commit suicide, but instead withdrew from the gathering and became independent. He did not even think about the option of going underground and hiding himself. He quite naturally moved to a faraway town and used the social position that was given to him for fulfilling his function. The personality prepared for him was one of a teacher, but he was able to master the basic knowledge and skills somehow. It's interesting that he still was able to make that happen for himself, despite, you know, the cost. I guess because he succeeded, but they still wanted him to kill himself. I guess with the exchange that he himself wanted to move far away, I guess with no connection to where he came from, and to do something completely unrelated, I guess was acceptable. Okay. But there you go, explains to how he got to this point. Being at Ryudo, to being a teacher, right? Use them connections. He had no difficulty adjusting to his new role, his completely different life. But there was just one trivial matter bothering him. Like a small thorn stuck in the recesses of his mind. He did not realize what that strange feeling was until the very end. The life that he did not assume would continue for more than half a year, in fact has continued for 5 years. There were none that searched for him, and he himself decided that he would live without regard for his pursuers. It was not that he yearned for a normal life. In the 20 years he lived, he only polished his technique for killing. If the result were something like that, then all that remained was to disappear without accomplishing anything more, he concluded. In short, he had lost the opportunity to find joy in life. I was being reminded of something here. Humans spend the rest of their lives fulfilling the hopes they've accumulated up until adulthood. Whether or not they are fulfilled is not the issue. They are in fact an anesthesia that can expend time originally filled with nothing but agony. True. He who had none of this could only continue on meaninglessly. He had neither ideals nor illusions. He decided he would fulfill the duty of living until his own flesh would rot away, until the tool known as himself ceased to work. Until... Because the interesting part is his relationship with Medea, right? So, I guess we'll see soon. Now, it seemed to make him a cold-hearted machine, but he was a human no different from those around him. It's just that his inspiration had died. Very sad. What is dead does not revive. It is not that it's sleeping in the depths of his heart or that it's regressed or anything. It just doesn't exist anymore. No matter how human-like a life he tries to live, he will never in his life feel inspiration. He never thought it to be painful, and the people around him assumed he was strong too. There's nothing wrong with that assumption, but he did make an effort. To rot away meaninglessly like this. With his dead heart, he walked the path of hell and endeavored to live among humans. And then, he met that pale woman. He was returning home after finishing the day's work. As he was heading towards the temple gate, he caught sounds coming from the forest. Having been indebted to the temple, he took it as his obligation to see what was going on, and he found a woman covered in blood. The woman wrapped in the black cloak was so weak that it seemed she would disappear at any moment. She seemed so frail that the word vanish rather than die would be more fitting to describe her appearance. Later on, the witch would think, this meeting was a miracle. But the thought was not hers alone. Even if it were an illusion, The impossible happened. A throbbing of the heart. The heart that had beat at the same rhythm for tens of years had stopped for just an instant. The interruption had but a minor effect, but it did change the beat. Something that should have been dead trembled as if to stir. Love it. The woman collapsed without responding to his call. Forest in the night, rain, a weakened body, clearly not a decent person. Trivial matters, including a cloak covered in blood. This woman is dangerous. Even if he tried to distance himself from it, he was out of place as well. There was no way he couldn't pick up the scent of one who was the same as him. True. But still, he looked after the woman. It was not out of sympathy for someone similar, a fellow murderer that he saved. He helped because a person had collapsed before him. The reason why he saved her was simply that. The woman awoke in about an hour. The woman stared at him, dazed. There was neither bewilderment nor delight. She looked as if her despair of being alive had turned to tears and were about to spill forth. How did the woman take his words? Did she think she could use him, or did she let her guard down at his kindness? The woman divulged her background, and he all too quickly accepted her rather peculiar identity. He embraced the woman, and also acknowledged participation in the killings shown as the Holy Grail War. Known. That's how it happened, yep. But this insight is so amazing, dude. Like, his story up to that point, and what shifted inside him, just this minor moment of, well, not minor, but just this small moment of his heart skipping a beat, right? That stirred within him, the emptiness up to until that point, just being completely dead inside. No inspiration, no, like nothing, no joy, right? Which of course reminded me of Kirei. We know what he discovered his joy was in. And with Kuzuki, we see now. Of course, the witch was probably surprised too. The woman's condition was, although slightly, improving. Because while she gloated that she could have, the moment she were rejected, use magic to control his heart, her vile schemes were undone with just a single statement. It's not that he consented to her out of fear, or that he was interested in the Holy Grail. He cooperated with the woman because she had asked for his help. He was a man who saw no evil in murder to begin with. He had no reluctance to becoming a master. However, the truth is that he cooperated to distance himself from the past. If you assume there was a moment of disconnection, then this would be it. He did not realize why he had abandoned the life he had worked for until now and taken up the woman's cause. This was his policy. He has no desires. It was just that the woman he saved wants something called the Holy Grail. If he fights, then it is not for the Holy Grail, but for the woman. Since he promised to aid and cooperate, lending his strength to the woman is a natural obligation. To him, the Holy Grail War was an abnormality, but it was not a wrongdoing. Because to him, evil is defined as something that negates his established function. And so he became the master of Castor. He was a master without command spells, but she obeyed his words. He knew nothing like magic to begin with. She only used him to stay in this world and planned to treat him as a puppet. And he himself did not participate in the Holy Grail War. Rather, he left the fighting to the woman. If there ever was a chance that he would reject her, it would only happen if she denied the Holy Grail War to begin with. As the user and the used, their relationship was perfect. I want to go back. Yet for the same reason, they did not mesh together as human beings. The more the woman began to change her mind, the more of a reason he had to abandon being a master. And the more he experienced her character, the more he broke down as a tool. Yo. I want to return to my country before I die. That sense of nostalgia. He who had no place to return to begin with could not possibly understand it. No, it was an emotion he should not have understood. Yo. Yo! 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 Fate route. This is Fate route. The battle ended quickly. The gatekeeper assassin was defeated by the enemy servant, and the master who went out to face him too was defeated by the rain of swords. His abdomen was cruelly torn apart. The arms he spent over 20 years tempering vanished below his shoulders.
Master! Master!
The woman's voice echoed in the temple grounds. The enemy servant seemed to have left, having finished with the servant and master of the temple gate. Only the woman was left clinging to the remains of her pallid contractor. With eyes that had lost focus, barely able to discern silhouettes, he looked at her. Seeing that crying face, he found himself lamenting over having done something inexcusable. It was not an illusion that his fading consciousness was showing him. His heart, that should not have existed, shed blood on the verge of death. Damn. Damn. The woman wished to return home. The idea of a place to return to did not exist for him. A repeated sense of nostalgia. A place he'd never seen nor heard of. A dream of a paradise that he did not even have an impression of to begin with. That he did not know how to take in even in his last moments.
ここから離れろキャスター。お前の気配を察すれば今のサーバントが戻ってくる。
He said indifferently. Condition of his body aside, it was a miracle that his spirit was still in good health. Perhaps it was the result of his long days of training. Till the moment his brain stopped working, his mind was clear.
何を言うのです。気を確かに必ず直します。あなたを死なせはしません、マスター。
The woman didn't leave. It was a bit illogical. Of course, losing a master to anchor to is a serious blow, but not to the extent that it would result in death. In fact, she had already lost one before. Considering the possibility of being attacked by the same servant again, it would have been best to leave as quickly as possible and search for another master.
見くびらないで。私は魔女です。死にかけの人間の一人や二人、簡単に作られる。
A miracle would not happen. The magical energy stockpiled in Ryudo Temple had been destroyed by the enemy servant. What an asshole. And the injuries were inflicted with a mortality cursed by their noble phantasm. Jesus, dude. Gil is ridiculous.
簡単。こんなの何度だってやってきたことなんだから。失敗なんてしない。失敗なんてしない。失敗なんてしない。こんな簡単な治療、手こずったことなんて一度もない。
God, this makes me look at the yard scene that happens after this, after this, and then when Gil shows up and then kills her. I'm looking at that differently now, dude. Holy fuck. Whilst crying, the woman recited magic as if apologizing. But it was no use. Even the divine words she spoke had lost their usual power. The woman's face filled with more sadness with each passing moment.
やだ。助けて。誰かお願い。お願い。
Oh my god. Her voice actor is so good.
助けて。助けてよ。こんなの嘘よ。今まで失敗したことなんてただの一度もなかったのに。
Neither healing the wounds nor regenerating his body was fast enough. She could not save anything. A witch's role is only to cripple humans. Even if she could cure people and animate the dead, genuinely saving a person was simply not possible. Perhaps it was because she hadn't really tried to save anyone up until now. Genuinely saving a person. She had not known of that rule until this very moment. Magic did not work. She called for help, but no aid ever came. The sky she looked up at was high, and she could not stop his falling body temperature. God, every crack in her voice is it just hits, man. She's so good. He hears wailing. Looking at her crying face gives him a headache. He realizes that this is because of sadness, and finally accepted that he could not become a tool. Wow. He just thought to live normally. When he murdered a person and became free, he accordingly took up the view that the rest of his life could only be spent away. What a blatant lie. He dared not admit it, but he actually regretted that. He always kept in his heart those meaningless 20 years and the person he'd killed whom he had only known by name. He always thought it was wrong to kill someone who he knew only the name of. That was not a killing born from his own motives. He was not an adult born from his own will. How should he have atoned for his mistake? It had been fun. It was easy to do nothing but hone one single technique, to forget about thinking and be a tool. Being preoccupied with that, he erased 2 lives without a single consideration. Is there any evil greater than this? Even if those who raised him were to shoulder a part of his crime, even if he didn't know a thing, what killed another person was, inevitably, his own hands. The reason why he went on to live was because he didn't know how to atone. He stopped practicing the technique that he could call his one and only purpose, slowly buried it within his daily life. Wishing for nothing, gaining nothing. That was the best form of atonement he could conceive in his mind. That way of living crumbled after meeting this woman. Shit. Sheesh, man. This is the truth inside the truth, man. He never sought anything out of atonement. And then meeting her shattered that. A pale-looking lady wandering about in the cold rain. She was simply beautiful. More beautiful than any woman he had seen before. That was the only reason. To that beautiful creature, he reached out his hand. Looking back on it, throwing away all those days of atonement he had accumulated in lending her a hand was surely... Oh my god. All of Gil's blades around. Her crying over him. Fuck, dude. The woman's voice had turned into a cry. What he thought was rain was something much warmer. The woman did not leave. I love that line so much. What he thought was rain was something much warmer. Just as that night, arms covered in blood clung to his chest. It is truly sad that he could not see her face anymore, he thought.
そうか。ようやく気がついた。
It took too long, but still, there was some time. He had for a long time wanted to apologize to something. Things he had regretted. Something he had to beg for forgiveness. I think the conversation with Archer and Kuzuki that I referenced earlier was about regret, actually. God, the characterization in this game is nuts, dude. Like, beyond the 3 routes, just getting this is so much. Kuzuki, like, getting this depth is so amazing, because I've always thought Kuzuki was so cool, and that you never really delve deeper than his relationship with Castor, and beyond the fact that he was trained as an assassin, and that his snake technique is like of surprise, right, and it works the first time, and how he fucked up Saber in the UBW route. That's really all he gets to do, right? And then his relationship with Castor, which is so significant, but we don't get the full scope of that, and getting that here in Hollow Ataraxia, just like with every other characterization we get in this game, I feel like this one in particular is so cool and interesting to me, just because we knew so little of him and what's going on in his mind, right? That him being with Castor changed him, or rather just changed that, right? And shattered his atonement, right? Which is fine. You know? Because I feel like on some level, I've always wondered how Kuzuki truly felt about Castor, right? And that's probably, you know, why Shiro asked that question in the first place, right? As well. Now I know. Which is great. Since long ago, to that which he had vaguely carried until now, he had wanted to live for someone's sake. Dude! To that pure longing.
Castor.
To live for someone's sake. There you go. Kuzuki. Oh my god. The woman would not leave, even though the footsteps of death may have already gotten close. It seems the apology was directed at himself. That is enough. He can no longer apologize, but in exchange, this woman had done it for him. Only one concern remained. He had to release this beautiful bird back to where it came from. Oh my god.
Castor.
The woman would by no means leave him, when he could no longer see anything in the interval when he would allow for everything.
いいからもう行きなさい。君はこんなところにいてはいけない。
Feeling more peaceful than he ever had, he told the woman who clung to his remains. That was incredible. Where the woman who was left took off to is already a distant story. The woman was not what he thought her to be. The conclusion was not one he had hoped for. The story of the fallen killer and the witch ends here. And this is what leads to, I feel like, you know, Castor stopping the investigation into what's really going on, and rather not getting involved, right? Because Castor could probably stop Angra, who I assume is the one, of course. But why? When they can continue what they have in this hollow paradise forever. Makes sense for the both of them. But even still, Kuzuki fundamentally, would he still yet let that be so? Just as the acceptance in his death and the partings that they have had, like we've seen in UBW and we have finally seen here for the Fate route, in essentially the same way, would he let that end if he knew? He believes it to be so, and I guess we have evidence to support that, but now we know how he feels. But you know, hard to say. We know at the very least, of course, that she won't get involved. She's gonna let Shiro continue on his path, and I guess she knows their time is limited by Shiro's efforts. It almost makes in a weird meta way, it almost makes me want to stop playing the game so it doesn't end, right? Like, just let the characters have their hollow paradise. Which they are, but, you know. Man, this... And looking at the game through the lens of, like, Kuzuki and Caster, I did not expect this. This adds so much, dude. The story of the fallen killer and the witch ends here. If there was any salvation, it was in the brief instant after they had met. A life that lasted less than a month was filled with many times more humanity and tranquility than what had existed up until then. And also I love that Caster, that she could not return to her home, and Kuzuki with no home to return to. Finding that tranquility and that serenity in each other to fill that void. Dizziness overcame her. Wow, same line, like with Shiro. As if having seen a fragmented dream, do the exact same thing. But it's curious that this happened like this, that Shiro just saw that with Caster. Now Caster just apparently saw this with Kuzuki. The witch in the black cloak is liberated from the evening rain. She narrowed her eyes at the slight vertigo and looked up at the gloomy sky.
できっこないことを言われて羽なんて初めからありはしなかった。
Oh man. So she got insight into that thought about let this beautiful bird go or return, but there was nowhere to return to, so, and no wings. But surely he saw her that way until the end. Even if she had fallen to the ground, her wings were light. Someday they would slow off the dirt and return to the skies.
ほんと気の回らない人。立ち寄った場所を気に入って空を忘れる渡り鳥だっているでしょう。そんな都合のいいことを思いもしなかったの。
And so it happens. She smiles ever so slightly at the monologue. This is so good, so fucking... I don't want it to end even more now. As if drifting off to sleep, the witch slowly closes her eyelids, as if to bury herself in the short-lived dream. She held tightly onto this moment from which she will eventually awaken. Hold on tight. This is yet another fragment. A fragment that has already passed on, or broken into pieces, and, after faltering for a brief moment within the heart of the bearer, ceases to resist and simply flows away. So that with only the mind she could not exist, and with only the body she could not leave footprints. At the very least, the spring that did not come could be admired, unbeknownst to others, at this paradise of a town. Beautiful. Beautiful, 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 beautiful. Oh my god, that was awesome. Oh my god. That was fucking great. Love that, love that, love that. Cannot state enough. That is my favorite thing about this game. That right there. Or rather, just the further characterization that not only just adds to the character, but just to the whole concept of the game. And in the meta sense, like, affecting me. It's like, god damn. But that, I think that it might be my favorite example so far. To be honest. Wow. Not much going on at this point, eh? Call it a day. Let's do it again. Actually, right, yeah, I wasn't gonna continue Panafuda because there's stuff in there that I'll wait till probably the end, like I said in the beginning. Let's do a castle run real quick. These parts are gonna be slightly shorter, so hopefully you enjoyed that, but I think that is a great one to end on, with getting Kuzugi's full story where he started, and kind of like that emotional side of it unraveling as the story was told. It wasn't all laid out up front. Like, it had to work up to the point where it told us that he, deep down, he sought to live for someone else. Like, almost telling a story in a way that coincided with how Kuzugi realized it, which is great storytelling, of course. Not revealing everything up front, but the build-up, right? And even showing us that scene from the Fate route, like, fuck, oh my god. Anyway, love that so much. Game starto. Between, we'll do our grind strats. At this point, I'm starting to forget the combos I've used. We did get some stuff last time, which is pretty good. Let's pick Prin with Yasta. No, Medusa.
頼んだわ、ライダー。
いいでしょう、リン。
Hey.
あら、いいですか。目隠し取ります。
Alright, time to fight. Hello? Come here.
あなたをここで倒します。かけるペガサスのように。
I'm just griefing everyone.
無敵。
Invincible.
いただきましょう。
Open this. Ooh, Rider's glasses. I don't think I had those. Come here.
エクス
Galiba.
あなたをここで倒します。ハロワに来なさい。
Thank you. Thank you.
まさか。
Come here. Come here.
働かずに食べるご飯は美味しいですか。
お腹が空きました。
Lose more HP. Oh, Caster's almost dead. Fucking hit Saber.
やりました。
Rider's glasses again. Come here. Come here.
かけるペガサスのように。
Oh, well, that's fine. Come here. Come here.
まさか。
Kill each other.
無敵。
激横です。
Saber. Still got a couple minutes. Come here. Hey, there we go.
いただきましょう。
Ooh, Book of False Attendant. Ah, I remember that.
いただきましょう。
That was that fake command spell book. That command spell book Sakura made for Shinji. Very good.
弓使って死ねばいい。
Mashing.
かけるペガサスのように。
Good hit, good hit. Come on, gotta go fast, gotta go fast. Archer has so much HP. Oh, nope. Who's
やり
down?
ました。
Nothing but a piece of paper. Come here. Come here. You faker.
弓使って死ねばいい。
Alright, let's go a little further. Just a little bit.
まさか。
Oh, Noble Phantasm. What the hell? I got interrupted? You garbage can. Come here, come here. Yeah, no, itai, itai, itai. Let's go. I need, oh my god, I need something.
無敵。無敵。
Come here. If I have invincible, I can't fight, I guess. Which I guess makes sense.
スピードアップ。
God damn it. Don't hit Gil. Fuck. I went up too far. Why is Archer so healed? I should let Gil kill him. Actually, I might die at this rate. Gotta dodge these fools. He's not taking like any damage. Oh, never mind. I'm about to die. Oh, Gil chest. Golden earrings, got those. Oh, fuck it. God, Archer was tanking that round. What the hell? Oh, that works. It didn't continue me to the end. I thought it usually does that. Well, that's fine. Much faster. Handmade by Sakura, a useful item that is sure to bring Ryder along. Nice. What else did we get? We also got the Ryder's glasses. A seal for Ryder's mystic eyes of petrification. Should she take them off carelessly, a large-scale disaster will occur. Amazing. Wow, we're really close. It's gonna get harder to tell stuff from now on, but defeating the other servants is a good way to get the other stuff. So thank you for that tip, by the way. I believe Marrow, you're the one who said it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Hey, that's pretty good. 7 more to go. Hell yeah. Alright. Well, that's all we're gonna do for now. God, I can't wait to do the Hanafuda stuff. Again, that's gonna get its own video. We're just gonna go super hard on that. But, yeah, that's it for this part. I fucking love that with Castor and Kuzuki, and I hopefully you enjoyed my, reaction to that. I feel like, in the last part, I didn't have enough of a reaction to the whole Kide and Bazet thing, because I was really just trying to listen and see what it was about, but, so, I don't know, weird thought I have. Sometimes I feel like, oh, I wasn't hyped up enough about it, but I guess I shouldn't, like, force that. I should just let it come to me. But anyway, what am I saying? Thank you very much for watching. Feel free to leave any thoughts on this part if you have any, as always, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.